Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is purported to be the final film in the Mission Impossible cinematic universe. Or maybe just the final film with Tom Cruise playing Ethan Hunt. Or maybe just a marketing stunt to get everyone to see it. Should everyone see it? Your mission, if you choose to accept it, hang out with me while I go through the movie and give you my take as a filmmaker if you should see it or skip it. And listen, if you're worried I'm going to Lumiere Brothers, a movie that has Tom Cruise hanging from an airplane, fear not, because the patented Fast and Furious Leaderboard is back at the end of this review. I hope you hang out with me because this video will self-destruct if you stop watching. I was a kid when the first Mission Impossible came out, but I was definitely in the target demo to enjoy it. The fact that it became a huge cultural touchstone nearly immediately at a time when Tom Cruise was the biggest movie star in the world just made you feel like it was monumentally important. So it became a thing. New Mission Impossible comes out, and I go. My family is huge into going to the movies, and my dad in particular loves a cool action film, so it was no problem to convince him to take us. Obviously, it fell from its zenith, but the fact that it was coming to an end made it feel like a reason to go check it out opening weekend. Originally, this was supposed to be a two-part film, with Dead Reckoning Part 1, now simply Dead Reckoning, the lead-in to this film. I saw Dead Reckoning, and it was fine, but I was pretty upset how it ended, like a cliffhanger on television. I think most people felt that way, and the reaction, I feel, made Final Reckoning a difference. The sin of the two-parter is that Part 1 feels like exposition, but in a standalone style where Part 2 is trying to finish the story but also play like a retrospective to the whole series, I understand the balancing act, but I can't imagine these movies are super enjoyable to watch back-to-back like other installments would be, even though these two are the only ones that are supposed to be watched together. Overall, I really liked the time I spent between the original Mission Impossible and now. Some were better than others, but they were all fun. I don't think this is a Mission Impossible movie that is on the same level as other profitable franchises' best films, but I feel like they always delivered on the good, empty calories fun. While I would place no money on this being the final Mission Impossible movie ever, perhaps casting a new lead would breathe new life like James Bond has done countless times on the other side of the pond. It's hard to picture who could do it if not Cruise, but I have some ideas for later in the review. Shut up, Corey. Enough of your childhood. How were the stunts? Well, I think they were every bit as incredible as they always are, and this franchise is largely built on the death-defying stunt work from Tom Cruise. I was worried when I saw the runtime, but they managed to fit a lot of great scenes all throughout without it feeling too bloated. And there are just as many intricately designed fight scenes as large action set pieces to keep everyone entertained. Here's the thing. I do film for a living, and now I can't watch movies without trying to reverse engineer them in my mind, but movies like this I just kind of give up. It's insane to be able to figure out all these moving pieces and to get some of the shots that they get. I always think back to Sam Raimi on Spider-Man when they had spent 17 hours shooting on the subway, and then he talked to like his DP or his script super or something like that and said, how much actual film did we capture today? And they said it was something like 17 seconds. I can never do that. I don't think I'm the person you would want to do that. But that talent is something special. Not to give away specifics, but when Ethan is in the Arctic water and they have this sensational wide shot during the airplane scene, I stopped trying to figure out how things work and just let it wash over me. It was really just a ton of fun. I know there will come a time where we won't have a Tom Cruise action movie like we used to, and this might be that farewell. This is a great time to enjoy one before that time comes. The acting overall is good, but the script is always limited in a movie like this, and you rarely get the opportunity to open up the engine, if you will. I'll get into Tom Cruise in just a bit, but the cast is filled with solid actors putting in the work. The main crew, Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, Haley Atwell, and Palm Clem-Teef all have great rapport, and they carry on the plot without Tom Cruise for long stretches of the movie with a bifurcated story that relies on Ethan Hunt trusting Benji and the rest of the crew to carry on parts of the mission while he was somewhere elsewhere around the globe. When it comes to all the government employees, it's very serviceman-like work, but not really an opportunity to stand out with the exception of Angela Bassett as the president. Members of the cast who particularly stood out include Tremel Tillman and Rolf Saxon, who was a callback to the original Mission Impossible movie. The only one who stuck out was S.I. Morales as Gabriel, and I don't really think it's his fault. He's a good actor, and he has a good look to play a villain, but unfortunately, it just doesn't work. I just think there is a certain magnetism that has to come from the script to make this work, and he's already coming from a disadvantage because the character of Ethan Hunt is essentially a superhero with the things he routinely does. Part of why the villains in superhero movies and Bond movies are so dynamic is because the stakes need to be so much higher for our hero to look outmatched and eventually overcome. I think sadly, the time to build was during Dead Reckoning, but I don't feel like he was given the opportunity to shine there either. Obviously, the AI is like the villain in the real sense, and that gives proper stakes for the story, but without human proxy, it doesn't work. It would have been nice if they had gone out all out from Dead Reckoning to get a character to play a truly remarkable baddie to close out the series. Which brings us to Tom Cruise. As the character grows throughout the movies, there have been this concerted effort to make the stunts bigger and the drama shallow. That said, Tom Cruise can do this in his sleep now, and he is one of the most interesting movie stars ever. It's funny because when he started this franchise, he was in the news all the time because he was so famous. He had shown the serious acting chops, and then he had done blockbusters, and then the big stunts became a calling card. Maybe it's just the Scientology of it all, but I don't hear about him unless something is coming out. He does a particularly crafted media tour and gets out. It really just says something about a level he is on today that he doesn't need to show up all the time because his name ID and the choices that he makes are good enough for most people. Now, I'm really curious what the next arc looks like for him because this is a good time to break from Mission Impossible. I would hope that he goes back to working with great directors who focus on more serious, emotional pieces, but I wonder if that part of him is gone in some way. Just take Top Gun Maverick and the last two Mission films. On his acting ability alone, it seems to be pretty close to playing Tom Cruise over Maverick and Ethan Hunt. And I hope whatever he does next allows him to explore outside of that sandbox. One serious gripe, and much like Gabriel, I don't think this is the fault of a person, but more of the system we find ourselves in. The editing is all over the place. And at its best, it's some of the best we have. But then we have these flashbacks to previous movies. The Mission Impossible style transitions just did not work. I understand honoring the previous installments, and I can appreciate the reminders because I don't think I can tell you exactly what happened in any of the movies, specifically off the top of my head. But they are grating to the exceptional work elsewhere. I feel I need to blame choices over people broadly because it is the exceptional editing and the fight scenes and the big action pieces that just really make this work. Where I don't feel like I felt the editing style that moved from the Mission Impossible TV show to movies was as strong in Dead Reckoning, which is why I feel it's so weird. It feels so apparent in this one. Also, I don't want to get into spoilers, so I won't, but there is a big moment that is just killed by flashback cuts, and it just made me upset because that could have been a real moment, something that broke through in a real way and landed like a slideshow on Instagram. Just no heart, no living in the moment, just morsels of great acting getting mixed in with completely unnecessary stuff. I disagree with some choices. I think the script is a bit unwieldy, but in trying to wrap up this movie storyline, you can understand that to be the case. Other than that, I think this movie just shows how good Christopher McQuarrie is at these incredibly complex action movies, which is a profoundly difficult thing to do. Not every director is capable of making a movie like this, which is fine. I'm sure McQuarrie wouldn't sign up for a romantic comedy because it doesn't work within his skill set. But even the best directors with big action movies under their belt would be pushed trying to make the last four Mission Impossible flicks. And McQuarrie just always delivers. It's well paced. It delivers on the every set pace. It's a ton of fun. He takes something unbelievably difficult and makes it look easy, and he doesn't get enough credit for that. We need blockbusters like this for theaters, and he always delivers. So what's next? What do I think holds for the Mission Impossible moving forward? Well, if it were up to me, I think we all need to hand the reins off the franchise to a new lead actor And the plot of this movie gives them the opportunity to make moves without having to divorce Tom Cruise completely. Maybe you argue that Ethan is too known now. Destroying the entity, he has become known around the world and is therefore not the first choice for slipping through the cracks. So he moves to more of an emeritus position and is tasked to find the next generation of the agency. But with all the new notoriety that comes unwanted attention from rival political parties, and perhaps we have Ethan hauled in front of Congress to question why he feels he alone needs the power he has. It'd be a nice callback to A Few Good Men, if you will. While he's dealing with things that keeping him busy, a new threat emerges that the new generation must tackle themselves. This allows for several big action set pieces where Tom can play in. A big opening scene where Tom is merely training a new member of the team. Perhaps a fight in the middle, which brings the threat to Ethan's attention. And at the end, you can have Ethan team up with the IMF team for the big ending, where you have our new Ethan and our old Ethan both involved in taking down the enemy. It would be nice if you could find somebody who has two sides, like a sensitive and a serious, and maybe allow for more spycraft that comes from interacting with subjects in the real world, which could always allow for more romance subplots, which has been a hard thing to land in the previous movies. One last thing, I think the ability to do their own stunts is something that would need to carry on as well, because it's such an incredible marketing tool to say that, and fans really love it. It's funny because they played the trailer for Caught Stealing before Mission Impossible, and it really made me think about how Austin Butler could be the new lead. Much like Cruise, he's a photogenic runner, and I think the two of them provide something different from one another that could work well for a series moving forward. That being said, I don't think the new lead needs to be a white man like Tom Cruise, and I am just looking for the right person for the job, and someone who can carry a franchise like this for decades into the future. You are also in the benefit that the other notable spy movie series, James Bond, is going to have to deliver a new lead, a fresh new movie, and exceed expectations all at the same time, while Mission can find someone who can grow into the role, doesn't have to carry the whole movie all by themselves, and they can create a universe for them to succeed. But in the long term now, I don't think this is the end of Mission Impossible or Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, but something significant must change moving forward, or else the fan base will feel deceived and stop caring as much. When I was a kid, I loved Jurassic Park, and I thought it would be something I loved forever. But they promised this was the end and rebooted. They did it again, and now we're on our third reset for the series. It has consistently gotten worse as it goes along. So much so that I don't think I love the original movie as much as I used to, because I know how badly it was bungled. Mission is at the fork right now where they can make it new and keep it going, or continue as they have and lose it. I don't have to worry about AI because I have the leaderboard to protect me. As promised, I will get to the Fast and the Furious leaderboard in a second, but to those who are new, I would like to go over the ratings and how I do them. So for all movies, I have the leaderboard. And this is meant to rate a movie compared to everything else I have seen and rated purely on the merits. Almost like every movie I see is nominated for an award, and I'm going to have to pick which one I personally enjoyed the most. This is a tremendous disadvantage to certain movies because competing for an Oscar is not the goal. And comparing Superbad to Citizen Kane on the merits seems disrespectful to Superbad because it is great for a completely different reason other than the craft. So I started early on with the Fast and the Furious leaderboard, which are movies ranked upon pure enjoyment. It's namesake because it's a perfect example. The latest Fast and the Furious movie is not going to win a Palme d'Or or an Oscar, but it could be the most entertaining time at the movies on any given year. So I may give a 4.8 on the regular leaderboard, but an 8 on the Fast and the Furious leaderboard. Given all that, on the regular leaderboard, I will give Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning a 7.2. It's well shot, well directed. It has a lot of loose ends to tie up, but I think it does a good job as any big action flick. The acting is fine, but not incredible, but there are limitations that keep that from being the case. The editing could be frustrating for the most part, but it is also dynamic and thrilling. But now, on to the Fast and the Furious leaderboard, where I give The Final Reckoning an 8.9. The action is really amazing, and the stunts from Tom Cruise, the work by the whole crew, and McQuarrie at the helm is some of the finest in the world. It is deserving of the extra investment, and seeing it in the biggest and best screen you have available to you. Don't get me wrong, it will be good on a regular projection if that is the best you have. But if you can see it in IMAX, I would recommend you do that. It's a feast for the eyes. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so excited to be back doing the reviews and have a lot more stuff coming up. So make sure you subscribe if you got this far. And if you want to see my latest review, you can find it right here. There's a 90% chance it has less stunts than this movie. Thanks, guys.